Welcome to the News Hub. I wouldn't usually start the News Hub with housekeeping. I normally start my live feeds with a bit of housekeeping if I've got anything that I need to bring to you. But it's become apparent that occasionally on my News Hubs, my videos freeze. Like you can hear me talking, but my videos freeze. And I have taken advice and I've been told that that's because I possibly have too many tabs open that I've got on my computer. And you have to understand the setup that I'm using at the moment. It's a laptop with a camera and that's about it. So when I have a lot of tabs open, evidently it interferes with my video and makes me freeze every now and again. And sometimes it interferes a little bit with the sound and it can put the sound out of sync. So apologies for that. That's the housekeeping. I've taken advice and I've made sure that this week there are no tabs, unnecessary tabs open. And hopefully it should all go according to plan. I apologize if it doesn't. So for this week, let's check out what's in the news. So as always, it's Copilot first. Show me the top news stories for the past 7 days, exclude mainstream media. Okay. Top UK news stories the past 7 days. Starmer's leadership is under pressure. The Independent reported multiple developments suggesting deep instability within the Labour leadership, including deputy figures' warnings that the Mandelson scandal could damage a key by-election. Polling showing a majority of voters believe Starmer should resign. Analysis pieces arguing that it's over for Starmer and speculating on potential successors. I have seen a lot on social media about Starmer, about the fact that he knew about Mandelson. He's been called out about it, but also at the level of disregard that he has for us as UK citizens and not taking what we want into consideration. And there was a mass call for him to stand down. There was a mass public call for him to stand down. But evidently, he went and had a word with the rest of the Labour Party and told them that if they forced him to stand down, then he would call a general election. And that would effectively put them all out of work, because he knows if he calls a general election, that Labour will not be voted back in. And I would hazard a guess that his threats have made all of the rest of the Labour Party toe the line, because after that meeting, they all came out on social media and praised him for being such a great man, such a decent man. Decent is the word they keep using. What a decent man he is. I would argue that the rest of the country don't feel that way. But yeah, he's basically made them toe the line, and they are all now saying that he's the person that should, lead our country and move our country forward. I would argue that's not the case. And if you ask the general public, and I believe that there have been petitions about this, but they're not listening to the general public, which is interesting considering we were the people who put them where they are. Okay. UK to double troop presence in Norway. A significant defence shift. The UK will double the number of troops stationed in Norway in response to perceived threats from Russia, reported by The Independent. Our government really have made a concerted effort to demonise Russia on our behalf. On the UK citizens' behalf, they have really looked at Russia as a massive threat. And I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. I mean, I would suggest that the way our politics are in the UK at the moment, our politicians are a massive threat. The way the politics are in the US is a massive threat. The way we are arming Israel and the way we are supporting Israel is a massive threat, because it puts us on the wrong side of history. And everything that I've seen that has come from the Putin side is that really he seems to be on the right side of history. He's called out Israel for what they're doing in Palestine. When it comes to the Board of Peace, he's turned around and said that even if they do get involved, there should be caveats in place that the Palestinians have a say in what goes on in their country. So he doesn't seem that bad to me, but we're evidently led to believe that he's some sort of atrocious person. I don't get it, and I don't buy it. Rise in anti-Semitic incidents after Manchester synagogue attack. Independent reporting highlighted a spike in anti-Semitic incidents following a recent attack on a Manchester synagogue. Anti-Semitic. It's a term that is being bandied around, and various factions have their idea of what anti-Semitic means and what it applies to. From my perspective, if you don't like Jewish people and you call them out and you're not very nice about it, then yeah, I could see that being anti-Semitic because it's against a religious group. However, if you call out Zionism because you don't agree with that regime's policy of ethnically cleansing a group of people from the face of the earth, then I don't class that as anti-Semitic at all. And there have been many protests by the Jewish people in this country and other countries who have stood and said that the Zionist state are actually causing more anti-Semitism with their actions by lumping the Jewish religion into their definition. And these Jewish religious leaders are saying, we don't support Zionism. We don't agree with what Israel is doing to the Palestinian people. And we don't agree with being lumped in under that banner because we openly denounce it. So when you hear things like that in the news, rise in anti-Semitic incidents, it does bring to mind the fact that there's been like a conflation between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. And for me, they're two completely different things. Experts urge Ofcom to investigate AI-driven fake news. Following several major events, experts are calling for Ofcom to probe the role of AI-generated misinformation in shaping public perception. Well, AI-generated misinformation. Well, I'm using AI now. I would argue that the misinformation that is placed on a lot of social media platforms comes from people with agendas. And the misinformation I think that experts are urging Ofcom to investigate are from people who do not like war, who do not like genocide, who do not agree with ethnically cleansing a whole population. So the experts want Ofcom to look at those kind of posts, whether they're AI generated or not. I could be wrong. It could be something completely different, but I think the global agenda means that that's what they'll be looking at. Mobile phone use in schools linked to wellbeing concerns. New findings reported by The Independent suggest that mobile phone use in schools may negatively affect student wellbeing. I'm not sure if it negatively affects student wellbeing. I'm not really a proponent of having mobile phones in schools. I'm not saying that you can't have a mobile phone in a school. I think that that's absolutely fine to have your mobile phone in the school, but I would suggest that that would be for the use of needing to get in contact with home at a quick rate rather than anything else. And that would surely, having a mobile phone, knowing that you can be in contact with a loved one at the touch of a button, would increase your well-being. They're probably more looking at the use of mobile phones in schools along a line of scrolling and social media. But then if our government get their way, nobody under the age of, I think it's 16, will be able to access social media. It could be from our health and well-being point of view. If it's along those lines, if it's along the lines of being in a school and looking at things that you shouldn't look at on your mobile phone, you shouldn't be looking at your mobile phone while you're in a lesson anyway. But I'll look into it more because it has brought up the well-being aspect. So I will look into that more and I'll see if it overlaps with this new push for the Child and Schools Welfare Bill. Corruption and power abuse investigations highlighted by independent outlets. True Publica's review of the UK's independent media landscape emphasises ongoing investigations into government hostility towards oppositional voices, censorship and tightening libel laws, abuse of power and corruption. These themes continue to shape independent reporting across the UK. Government hostility towards oppositional voices, nothing new. They're always calling each other out across the parties. Censorship and tightening libel laws. I think we should follow the Welsh example of not allowing MPs to remain in office if they're caught lying. I think that should be across Wales, which it is, Scotland and England. I think it's really important that if our MPs are caught lying, that they should be completely stripped of office and not allowed to work as an MP again. Now, that would be very interesting for our politics, wouldn't it? I wonder how many politicians we would have left in the UK. Abuse of power and corruption. Well, when it comes to investigations, abuse of power and corruption, that would be a very interesting thing to watch and follow, because we know over the past, we'll say 6 years, that it has come to light that there has been a lot of abuse of power and corruption. So we'll follow it and we'll see. And if it's research worthy, I'll bring it to you on the Research Hub. Want a version from only grassroots or alternative outlets? I can also compile a list strictly from sources like Byline Times, Open Democracy, Novaria Media, The Canary, DSmog UK, and others. Just tell me your preferred level of independence or political leaning. Well, that's good. I'd have to be much more specific when I give Copilot an instruction. I'd have to ask them to use only grassroots and alternative outlets. So maybe that's something for next week's news. We'll look. But we know that when we go to Claude and when we go to Grok, they have a tendency to look at all of those sources. So we won't do it for today, but everything that's come through so far has been part of the Independent. I will definitely look more into the mobile phone use in schools, but for the rest of it, it's all very much not under my purview of health and well-being. Okay, so that's Microsoft. So we'll ask Claude exactly the same question. And we know Claude does broaden the search quite a lot more than Copilot does. And the Epstein scandal comes up at the top. Peter Mandelson Epstein scandal. The biggest story involves allegations that Peter Mandelson, UK's ambassador designate to the US, shared market-sensitive government information with Jeffrey Epstein after the 2008 financial crisis, with former PM Gordon Brown calling it a betrayal that puts Britain at risk. Keir Starmer has given the Met Office a dossier related to emails between Mandelson and Epstein. Again, just like last week, very interesting that that's what they're concentrating on. Not concentrating on the depravity of Mr. Mandelson. Not concentrating on the level of just debauchery and nasty stuff that is in the Epstein files, but concentrating more on the market-sensitive government information. Labour think tank spying on journalists. Morgan McSweeney's think tank Labour Together reportedly paid a private firm, APCO, to investigate journalists, including those from Declassified UK and the Canary, looking for potential leverage to discredit their reporting. Now, we know the Canary and we know Declassified UK. I follow both of those. Follow them. They are very good outlets. They cover the news stories that the DSMA probably tell our mainstream media they're not allowed to cover. So Declassified and Canary will go and they will dig up the dirt. They will dig it up and they will present it as far as their reach can go on alternative news. So of course Labour would not like that and would find a way, or try to find a way, to stop those voices from reaching people in the everyday public, because they don't want these things known. But it's come to light that's it. And we know Morgan McSweeney has been sacrificed. He's one of the sacrificial lambs from Keir Starmer's Labour. So he'll be demonised now. He'll be demonised. I mean, it came to light that Corbyn was basically, Mandelson and McSweeney ensured that Corbyn would be removed by just slurring him in the public eye. Your party, Corbyn Sultana, leadership elections. Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, new political party, has opened leadership elections for 24 Central Executive Committee seats with voting closing on February the 23rd. There are allegations of backroom deals between Corbyn's team and the Redbridge Independents slate. I don't know anything about that. I'm not sure which direction your party is going in. There hasn't, I signed up to their information when they came out and I saw that Corbyn was part of it. I was interested. So I signed up online on their website where you can stay appraised of the work that they're doing and how they're moving forward. The only thing that I know really about your party at the moment is that the general feeling is Jeremy Corbyn will not be heading it. So it looks like Zara Sultana may well be heading your party. I'm not sure how that will go down with the general public who signed on because they liked Jeremy Corbyn. I'd never heard of Zara Sultana up until the Your Party was formed. So I don't really know anything about her background. I didn't sign up because I want to support them. I signed up because I was being nosy. I wanted to see if they would possibly at all in any way be any different to all the rest of the politicians that are out there. At the moment, I'm not so sure. I'll keep you appraised if anything changes. Government ministers undisclosed Israel lobby links. Peter Kyle, Cabinet Office Minister responsible for arms exports to Israel, has been accused of not declaring his membership in Labour Friends of Israel on the list of ministerial interests, despite other cabinet members doing so. Now, I wonder why he wouldn't disclose that. He's responsible for arms exports to Israel. You would think that it would be the first thing that you would disclose. But no, there's a petition up at the moment that is for the public to sign. I will put a link to it in the notes on this video. It's for the public to sign so that we can actually get an understanding of just how deep the Israeli rot goes in our politics in the UK. Just so we can get an idea. So a bit like America has Track APAC, where you can look and you can check out which of the politicians or which of any of the members of any political party in the US receives money from Israel. Because if you're in receipt of funding from a foreign country and you're a member of parliament or you're a member of any organization that is in governance, then that money is for a reason. And that reason would be to buy your vote in favor of certain policies. We need that in the UK. We need some form of Track APAC in the UK. We don't have it yet. We don't have it. And this call on this petition to find out how far-reaching the Israeli fingers are into our politics in the UK, I have a feeling that off the back of that, we will get something like Track APAC in this country. We have an anti-Zionist lobby, as far as I'm aware, in the UK, but we need to go further. We need to know. We need to know how many of our politicians are being funded by Friends of Israel. And we have Labour Friends of Israel. We have Conservative Friends of Israel. Nigel Farage has just done his Reform Friends of Israel. There was uproar when he did that. There were people who were protesting at that. So we need to know. So sign the petition. I will put it in the notes. Sign the petition. UK nationals in Israeli military. Declassified UK obtained and published data on the number of UK nationals serving in the IDF for the first time. I saw that and I was quite disturbed by that. I had no idea that members of the UK were serving in the IDF, were being trained by the IDF, were going over and serving in the IDF. And it did bring to mind when I saw what Declassified UK had uncovered, it made me think about the sheer extent of police brutality and incitement to violence that is going on in the protest situations in our country. It's upsetting. I told you about the peaceful protest that was conducted at one of our prisons, and that peaceful protest became violent when the police arrived. So it did bring to mind, I wonder how many of those policemen have served as members of the IDF. Because the tactics they use and the force, the sheer violence, is just unprecedented. And rather than being first, we didn't get this at all on Copilot, rather than being first on Claude, as it has been for the last couple of weeks, weather crisis. Rain has fallen every day of 2026 in the southwest and South Wales, with both regions facing 50% more rainfall than usual for January. When we talked about the rainfall last week, I did say about the trees and the fact that we've upended loads of trees, and trees have a massive uptake of rainwater, runoff rainwater, and upending the trees means that there isn't anything in their place to be able to uptake the rainwater anymore. So that's part of it. But I did kind of glibly say, well, we are in January, February, and it rains a lot at this time of year. But I am acutely aware that about 6 months ago, there was a petition about the use of geoengineering, and government turned around and said, oh, no, we're not using the harmful type of geoengineering. The petition was basically let Mother Nature do her thing and stop interfering, stop spraying our clouds with these little particles because it's interfering with nature. So I did have that thought when I kept seeing how people were complaining that it was raining consistently in the UK and has been since the beginning of the year. Yep, I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the geoengineering that the government refused to listen to the UK public about. There were enough outroar and signing of the petition for it to get to be debated. And they completely shut it down and went, no, we're still going to do geoengineering. They've been doing geoengineering for years and years. Geological warfare, weather warfare. So they've been doing it for years. They've been spraying our clouds for absolutely years. And when people are called conspiracy theorists over the chemtrails, it just made me consider that. But we'll see, because it will come out. Everything always comes out. So that's Claude. And we'll go and we will ask Grok the very same question. Okay. It's the crisis of Keir Starmer again. Keir Starmer's leadership crisis and calls for resignation. Significant backlash against Prime Minister Keir Starmer, including Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar, urging him to quit amid internal fury. Discussions highlight Labour's MPs' revolts, demands for a female deputy, and broader instability tied to appointments and scandals. Independent left-leaning sources like Novara Media have covered this extensively as evidence of a government in turmoil. Our government is in turmoil. It's almost laughable. When you go on social media, you get these posts where they're like, who would you prefer to be your leader? And they give you different examples, whether it be Farage, whether it be Badenoch. And it's like, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Whoever gets in has to kowtow to the global overlords. So it doesn't matter. What we need in the UK is a complete dismemberment of government structure, a complete dismemberment. We need something new. Don't ask me what that is. I'm right up there on the, I'm saying that we need a big change, but I haven't got the answers for it. I haven't got the answers for it. But I'm sure that there has to be something better than the system we have at the moment, because it is all rotten. It is corrupt. It's full of people who are all more self-interested than they are interested about their citizens in this country. I don't think there is one politician who isn't in some way, shape or form just out for themselves. It just feels, as a UK citizen, as a person of the public, it just feels they don't give a shit about us at all. At all. Peter Mendelsohn and Jeffrey Epstein links under scrutiny. Renewed focus on Lord Peter Mendelsohn's alleged connections to Jeffrey Epstein, including potential criminal investigations, file releases exposing elites, Mandelson, Prince Andrew, and Labour's handling of related peerages and appointments. Alternative commentary emphasises this as part of wider elite accountability issues, with calls for probes into back-channeling and influence. Where Jeffrey Epstein is concerned, that means Israel. We know that he was working on behalf of Israel. They would try and have you believe that he was working on behalf of Russia, which I find absolutely ludicrous. When you actually look at any of the files, he's working on behalf of Israel. So the Peter Mendelsohn link to Epstein means that any information that Peter Mendelsohn was feeding to Jeffrey Epstein was going straight to Israel. So alternative commentary emphasising is a part of a wider elite accountability issues. Yes, it is. It is. It's one rule for them, another rule for us. It just widens the gap even further when it comes to people that like to class themselves as elite. It's a do as I say, not do as I do. Whereas when we actually look at the Epstein's files, there's absolutely no way we could do what you do. The level of depravity, no, we couldn't do that. No. Reform UK controversies and electoral issues. Accusations against Reform UK's MPs and figures, including breaking election law, links to foreign donors, alleged Russian influence, skipping debates on Russian interference and exaggerating council savings. Grassroots and independent voices portray this as pandering or hypocrisy, while others note the party's surge in polls and threats to establishment parties. I don't look at Reform as a credible anything. I just don't. You know my belief and my view on puppetitions and the global puppet masters that command them to decide and go in a particular direction. Nothing will change in the UK with Reform. Just like nothing will change things will change in the UK with Labour. They already have been changing. They've been creeping in all the things that we were never consulted about, trying to control us with digital ID, with the facial recognition technology, with CBDCs. Yeah, all of that. They're doing away with jewellery trials. That will be coming up on Research Hub in a couple of weeks. So all of these things, Labour, yeah, they are making a difference. They're doing it all behind our back. They're not consulting us at all. So changes are being made without us even being consulted about it. But it doesn't matter who's in power. So all the all the moaning about Reform UK means nothing, really. Not in the big grand scheme of us being ruled by the people that like to class themselves as elite. Ongoing fallout from grooming gangs, rape gang scandals, and institutional failures. Persistent coverage of police mishandling, Rotherham cases, threats to victims, social service failures, and government reluctance on inquiries. Discussions and independent posts highlight victims' treatment, cover-ups, and criticisms of woke policies enabling issues like DEI in recruitment, leading to problematic hires. There has been a lot. The government refused to do an official inquiry into the scandal. However, the MP that I brought to you on the digital ID research hub that we did, Robert Lowe, I think it's Robert Lowe, might be Rupert Lowe, I think it's Robert. He has taken it upon himself to do a deep dive. And because it's not been government sanctioned, he can't do it within government kind of confines. So he's gone outside and he's decided that he's going to run it anyway. And from what I know, he did a GoFundMe for it, and enough people were really appalled by the scandal, but they funded him to do this independent review. The unfortunate part of it is whatever he finds out doesn't necessarily have to be actioned or acted upon. But the things he is finding out are really quite disturbing. Social services, there's a lot of complicity going on. So when it comes to the rot in our government, it's not just our government, it's the governance of our services as well. There was something that I saw this week on the National Health Service side where a young girl who'd been part of these grooming gangs and rape gangs had been presented at the National Health Service for various problems that she'd had with sexually transmitted diseases, with unwanted pregnancies, and at no point did anybody in the National Health Service decide to flag that up. And if they did, and they did try and flag it up, it didn't go anywhere. So it's a failure of our services at a really deep level. But more will come out about that because it's at the very early stages at the moment. So we will continue to view it and watch it and see where it goes and what happens. But if Robert Lowe can get some head of steam with this, and it's irrefutable, the evidence that he has, it will be the UK's own Epstein files. Broader state overreach and public distrust themes. Reports of civil servants threatening to block policies under a potential reform government. Restrictions on free speech, e.g. the university debating bans, HMRC harassment and concerns over data privacy, medical data handling. Alternative narratives frame these as systemic aggression against citizens, mass immigration failures, and eroding sovereignty. Yep. I mean, HMRC harassment. I'm not sure who's harassing the HMRC. It says civil servants. So I don't know whether that's, well, yeah, it is included under that. Civil servants are threatening to block policies. Restrictions on free speech. Well, apart from the university debating bans, we've got a restriction on free speech as it is. People are getting locked up and arrested for tweets. People are getting locked up and arrested for holding a stance on their view of what's going on in Palestine. Concerns over data privacy, medical data handling. Well, I would hazard a guess that that's something to do with the fact that Palantir has got its dirty fingers into our National Health Service data. And it's come to light that it wasn't even tendered. The tender was given to Palantir without any other consideration for any other organisations that could handle the information. So it was outsourced to the US, to America, to Palantir. And Palantir has links with Israel. Like Palantir is the one that provides all the AI stuff for Israel to be able to go and find people that they want. So just hold in your mind that Palantir has our National Health Service data, all the information, all of it. And there's been an uproar about it, especially in light of the Epstein debacle. There's been an uproar, and again, there is a petition. We do love to petition in the UK, but there is a petition that you can sign, and again, I'll leave the link. There are about 3 ongoing petitions at the moment that they really warrant your attention. And yeah, the involvement of Palantir in our National Health Service data is one of the petitions. I will put it in the notes so that you can follow it and you can then go and sign it, because I, for one, do not want Palantir to have my National Health Service data at all. So these stories dominate alternative conversations, often with a critical lens on Labour's governance. Yep. Elite accountability. They call themselves elite. We don't. We just think that they're the scourge of the earth. The institutional trust. Yeah, no trust in institutions. So that's come from Novara Media, Byline Times, and X Threads. They've provided more unfiltered takes compared to the mainstream reporting. So, a bit concerning, our news for the week. It's all about corruption, isn't it? It's all about how deep it goes. It's all about us not believing in them anymore. And things need to change.